I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Hello and welcome to episode 31 of Playing from the Tips, Golf Australia Magazine's podcast offering you previews and tips for all the big tournaments across the world of professional golf each week. Jimmy Emanuel here once again in the host chair to try and control and direct our so-called experts on the subject matter, with this week providing another relatively quiet but very important week across professional golf on the PGA and DP World Tours. One starting its final wraparound schedule, the other hosting its flagship event. The first of those so-called experts is clearly campaigning for the role of Tsar of Golf with his Perfect World of Golf column for Golf Australia magazine on Monday, despite already being the Tsar of Golf podcasting. Mm-hmm. Rod Murray. Rodcasting, sorry, yes, of course.
Settle down.
Rod Murray, who called first? Jay, Mike, Susie, who was on the phone yesterday?
Yeah, take it easy. I was surprised at how little response it got. I was expecting people to get in my face about some of the things that I suggested, but there was no... Or did you moderate all those negative comments out of Facebook?
No. But I think when a well-argued and sensible thing like that, even if someone has a different point, they don't seem to argue so much.
Do you reckon it was well argued? I just sort of laid out, this is what I'd like to say. I mean, if everybody in the world made a bit more effort to be a bit more like me, I'd find life a lot easier. And it's just sort of in that vein.
Yeah.
Really?
That's okay. If everyone made more effort to be like you.
Yeah, just a little bit more. I'm not expecting people to devote their entire life to it, just a little bit more effort to be a bit more like me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a Tsarish type attitude toward things.
What's the best committee is a committee of three with two always sick.
Yeah.
Rod Putin here.
Yeah. But yeah, I was surprised that not a lot of people... I mean, they're all some simple ideas. There's loads of things you could do to make golf. It's all based on the premise. This is a great Clayton line, which is if you went back and started again with golf, how would you do it differently? So you wouldn't have, and he always uses that line about 3 of the 4 majors being in the US, and that makes some sense. It's like, yeah, well, you don't get a chance for a do-over, but if you did, what would you do differently? And then some other clown in 50 years would write about all the stuff you'd done that they thought was wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
No doubt, but...
And next on the so-called expert list is a golfer whose friend outed them as perhaps underperforming due to their equipment in a private conversation with myself.
Okay.
But,
right.
Oh, you didn't talking about low bodies.
Yeah, correct, I have.
Fine.
He does, however, certainly not underperform in tipping with his unique game theory. Logue, both statements true?
Yeah. I mean, I don't care about one of those underperforming areas.
No, I don't think you do. But it was a scathing attack on you personally.
Oh, this wasn't coming from a teammate, was it?
Hey?
This wasn't coming from a teammate.
No, it wasn't you and Porter.
Okay.
He would never. I mean, he would, but he would never.
not privately. He'd tell you to your face.
As always, before we look forward, let's take a brief look back. Highlights from the motley crew on last week. Anybody?
Oh, Minjee, I think, in that second shot on the playoff hole. I mean, it had everything, didn't it, for Minjee?
Charlie Hull also to keep that going.
Did you pick Charlie Hull?
No,
I didn't.
Yeah,
but what I was going to say,
okay.
Charlie Hull, perhaps the highlight. Are we seeing Charlie Hull finally fulfill the promise she showed all of those years ago?
Yeah.
This year has been a real coming of age.
I mean, she definitely is. Just, without a win, it doesn't really count. It's still an amazing performance.
Love the way she plays.
The difference between what she's done and getting a few wins is
it's hardly any. That's exactly right. She's Minjee Lee a couple of years ago, just kept finishing in the top 5 almost every week.
Yeah, she can look at this year and be very proud about her.
And it's a good thing because I love the way she plays. She's so aggressive and just gets on with it. And good for golf when she's really
LPGA Tour is having an amazing run of tournaments and winners.
Yeah.
Irish Open was really good too. National Open all this argument about golf courses. I can't remember who it was, but an Irish writer I saw saying, it's well and good you all say you want to see us play it on the links. This is 70% of the golf in Ireland,
You
and
have
this
to
is what
acknowledge.
we all play every week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is a good argument.
You have
So-
to acknowledge that it has these great inland,
Yep.
Yeah.
like estate courses.
Yeah, that's right. That's a big part of Irish golf. Yeah.
We've got the same problem here in Australia. I mean, people overseas think every course on every corner is a Royal Melbourne or a Victoria Golf Club. And the truth is there's a concentration. 90% of the golf we have in Australia is what we have in Sydney here in our suburban
Yeah, that's right.
council courses. So, yeah. But no, I agree. I think that, terrific.
Yeah. Speaking of last week, Logue saved us from a statless week with Keita Nakajima finishing third in Korea to take our top 10 tally to 153 for the year, while we also have 20 wins. I did feel a little unlucky with David Puig after you were both interested in me tipping him and he
First
led
round,
after
64.
round one.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was on fire and then he finished tied 11th. So pull your boots up, David.
Shame.
Let's move on to this week, and we're sharing the load of each tournament, the first of which is the BMW PGA on the DP World Tour, a Rolex Series event. Rolex Series kind of hasn't become a major focus like it was pre-COVID. It kind of is there, but it's not really. And of course, hosted at the formerly European Tours headquarters in Wentworth Club in Surrey. One of the highlights of each year, I think. Every World Match Play and back in the day has memories for a certain age group, but even just this tournament gets a good feel. Always the crowds are amazing. Wentworth is cool to look at, and it's not maybe the best golf course, but it's a cool thing to watch.
This and the Open are the two events where the European Tour really shines every year, or European sort of golf really shines every year, and this in a different way. This is, like you say, used to be the headquarters of the tour there. So this is the European Tour's flagship event. And you're right, it has got legitimate credibility, history, partly because of the course, but partly because of the event it is. It always does get a good field. So,
And
yeah,
first
couldn't agree more.
hole, side of Thomas Peters' great club snap over the back of his neck.
And what a
Oh, was it?
Just right of the first green.
hole one. That's
Hole
your
one.
start to the
How
day.
do you
Just
be
outstanding.
so fuming on the first
Was that
hole?
the one where he wrapped it around
Wrapped
his neck
around
and
the
then
back
just
of his neck
grabbed
and
it with
just
the right
casually
hand?
just snapped it?
Man, that is so.
Do yourself some damage doing that. Rod, you're going to tell us about the course at Wentworth.
Look, because it's a flagship event, a bit like Augusta National, the course is always under intense scrutiny, and that makes life difficult for a golf course, obviously. But I think the last 10 years it's been mired in controversy. The changes that were made by Ernie Els starting back in 2010, and loads and loads and loads of changes since. When you mess with a classic, Wentworth was never, it's kind of betwixt and between Heathland and Parkland. Wentworth.
I agree with that. Yeah.
It's this sort of odd combination, but it always had something special. And we'd seen so many great moments there over the years with the match players, you said. Great players doing great things. Faldo, Seve, Norman later on. Remember Woods played O'Meara there in 96 or 97. So it had that fabulous kind of history. So look, it was controversial, particularly the 18th hole, what Ernie did there. Introduced water there in front of the green, and it was too long when it first opened, so it just became a pitch and punt thing. It's a bit sad. That's taken a lot away from the course. And a lot of changes to a Harry Colt course, which is dangerous. Having said all that, it is still a really good golf course. Fabulous to look at. There's some wonderful Heathland stuff left there that you'll get to see. It looks, from what we're seeing on Twitter this morning, a bit too narrow and a bit too much heavy rough for my liking. But that's a setup issue. That's not something about the course. That's the way the course has been set up. We see that a lot these days. Lots of cambered fairways. So what the ball does when it hits the ground is as interesting as anything else. The first hole's a great example. If you drive it over the top of the hill, you get extra distance, but everything just feeds down into the right.
Right, yeah, that's right.
So, and you see that on lots and lots of holes around the place. Placement off the tee on the fairway, really important, no matter what decade says, for what comes after that into most of the holes. Look, I think we'll see some really interesting golf this week. Some of the greens have got enormous breaks in them, huge two-tiered greens with massive steps in between where they're almost two greens. Look, it's still a really interesting golf course. It's not as good a golf course as it used to be. The finish there was always amazing with the back-to-back par fives, and that was always
17 so memorable off
17
camber.
is so good.
off camber, round to the left. If you're long enough, you can hit it up the left, skirt with the trees, and have a great
Seve could always hit a big ropey hook on that tee shot and gain a bit of an advantage, and then another ropey hook on the next one, and you see the ball running in. There was something about, I have a huge fondness for that old World Match Play.
Yes, of course.
And there was something about standard definition TV back then. I think that
Made it work.
gave it a soft like a soft focus, the whole course.
Yeah, the
And
colouring
it really
and everything
popped.
like that was, it looked amazing.
There's something about it really popped back then, and now it's all sharp edges and
Well, of course,
It's
controversially
white
taken
and
over
green
by
and-
a Chinese group who there was all sorts of issues with the membership. A whole bunch of people left. A whole bunch of people got kicked out. There's some real issues with the club behind the scenes. Have nothing to do with the course. It's one of the first real estate sort of developments.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the UK, you see houses along the fairway.
It used to be just an estate. Now it's real estate.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so there's
nice. Well done. Yeah.
even if you don't pick a winner this week, Logue, you've done well there. That's a victory right there.
It's one of those places, but with that TV, it's one of those places that as you've gotten this higher definition and all this sort of stuff, it reveals more of what it probably always was.
It's taken away some mystique.
And you go, I didn't think, or when you go there, it's not quite what you think.
There was always
old
soft,
cricket grounds were always
soft
like that
edges
on TV.
to everything, like the transitions from heather to fairway, and then into the woodland and the green surrounds and everything all had this soft edge. And it really, and the echoey sound that you got off the trees and everything. I was going to
say that. The best sound of ball striking at the bottom
especially
of the big
with
tree
persimmon
areas.
And it had really popped on TV. It was one tournament that just really popped. And then the familiarity that came from watching matches go through the holes in sequence.
Yeah.
So you got to know the course quite well on that coverage. All of which differentiated it from what we see today, which is kind of just another stroke play tournament on a course that looks like every other course that they play.
It's been
of course,
vanilla
side of the fruitcake incident with Seve and Nick Price. That happened at Wentworth.
Oh, fill me back in.
I know.
The fruitcake where Seve choked on a piece of fruitcake as Nick Price was about to hit his shot.
Old Seve was up.
Yeah.
He was always
Seve.
One of the great Billy Foster stories. That one, look that one up. I'm sure it was on the podcast you won an award for without Logue.
Yeah.
There was like coughing things and stuff he used to do. And
fruitcake down there.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Els won 5 of those, did he?
Yeah, I think so.
Seve won 5 or 6.
Norman won a couple.
See,
Seve beat Langer in a really famous final one time.
It's the format that I guess Liv is trying to replicate in a way. It was just really simple. Just invite the 16 most popular players that people want to watch and have them play matches. And it was just huge.
It was incredible.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Logue, can you give us some players to watch this week? Given we're talking players, good segue, everybody.
Sure. Actually, I reached out to none other than Ryder Cup captain Luke Donald to help me with the intro to this segment. And he surprised me with a very well-produced piece. I'm not sure whether he had help from the DP World Media team. But anyway, he obviously went to a lot of trouble.
So no need for you to do any research. You can just read what Luke had to say. Is that what we're getting here?
Oh, no, we're going to hear
audio.
We're going to hear it. Oh,
audio.
right.
He sent you a voice memo.
It's buffering. You're going to have to edit.
Dear, oh dear.
This is the BMW PGA. An iconic championship. The greats of the game have won here. Who will be next?
Indeed. Who will be next?
That was the worst choreographed piece of audio. That was horrendous. Okay, who will be next?
Who will be next then, Logue?
That was more of a visual medium than, than an audio
I got to tell you,
podcast.
it didn't work terrifically as a visual medium either, just quietly.
Okay, so all 12 Ryder Cup team members from the European team are playing this week. Plus,
Rory is going to be knackered by the time he gets to Rome, is he not?
Well, he's got a Bucks party the week before.
oh dear me,
He's promised to behave, apparently.
Yeah, right.
Including two-time BMW PGA Championship winner and Ryder Cup captain Luke Donald. He's also playing to keep an eye on his squad. Obviously, some of the marquee Euro Ryder Cup players, there's aforementioned Rory, Rahm, Hovland, Fitzpatrick, Rose and Fleetwood. Obviously, Hatton and Lowry, I think, are kind of the next sort of level of player there. And then the up-and-comers Arberg, Nikolai Højgaard and Bob McIntyre. There's Billy. I want to mention Billy Horschel is playing.
Sure.
He's a frequent visitor to the UK for these things.
Yeah.
He's an enigma, isn't he, Billy? He says
up-
things that drive me mad sometimes, and then other times I really like him. He's
I
a
know.
bit Poulter-like.
I feel like
good.
he's a great spokesman for golf, or could potentially be a great spokesman for golf if you could just shake some sense into it.
Stick to what you know, Billy. It's when you wander outside your lane, I think
I think he could be, if you could just sit him down and talk to him, and it might take 6 months or 12 months, but just sort of re-educate a little bit.
Stephen Proctor told us he was a lovely bloke, remember?
He'd be a tremendous spokesperson for golf, and it's no wonder that the PGA Tour actually leans on him to speak on their behalf for a few things. But
just
anyway.
the way he's embraced Premier League football.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And he's mad for it. Yeah. And he just he just seems like, he's Florida man, makes money and does good.
Above everything else, he plays.
That's right, he turns up.
He turns up and he actually contends in these things. So,
in fairness, as did Patrick Reed for quite a long time. To his eternal credit, was a great supporter of the European Tour.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyway, Billy Horschel's in the field. Adam Scott was a late inclusion or last few weeks or so.
He was always going to play a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. I think he's in the area and decided he's
just playing a bit of a run in Europe for a while because he doesn't want to go and play over, Silverado and all those.
Why is he playing at all at the moment? I don't know.
Well, he needs world ranking points and stuff to get into majors.
All right. No, that's fair enough. Okay. Tom, I'll allow that.
2023, not 2013.
I'll allow that.
I'm sure Adam will be very glad to hear.
Phew.
Tom Kim is also playing. We've got some perennial Euro stars in Danny Willett, Patrick Harrington, Victor Perez, Aaron Rai, the other Højgaard, Larrazabal, Tristan Lawrence.
Are you just reading the entry list? Is that what you're doing?
No,
here?
I'm just. This was the task I was given to go through notables. Okay. A few other Ryder Cup near misses with Maronk, Migliozzi, and Yannick Paul are playing. That's most of the non-Australian marquees apart from Adam Scott, as I mentioned. The other Australians are Min Woo Lee, Jason Scrivener, Blake Windred, Jordan Zunic, Dimi Papadakis, and Jared Felton Green.
I think you've got some in there that are not in this field.
I'm not sure. I think they're all in there. Unless I was reading from the reserves list.
It may be.
You've gone a little bit far down the list there. I'm gonna.
That might cut out at Jordan Zunic.
I'm going to say it's going to cut out at Jason Scrivener.
That's what I would have thought too.
Okay. Well, good luck to Blake Windred, Jordan Zunic, Dimi Papadakis, and Jared Felton.
They are not only reserves; they are a long way down the reserves list.
There's got to be a food poisoning incident at a restaurant.
I think there's going to be an issue because I think Jared Felton is at home in Perth, so I think he's going to struggle to get there.
Well, there's still some other Antipodean interest with Ryan Fox, who's in great form, it must be said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stormed home in the Irish Open.
And Daniel Hillier.
Yes.
Are we going picks now?
I'd just say on the Australian front, which I will confirm is just Min Woo Lee, Adam Scott and Jason Scrivener.
Thank you.
Very good.
The others are not in the field.
I had one job.
Given Dimi,
stand down Windred, Papadakis, Zunic and Felton.
Given the last three have challenged to a status, I don't think they're getting in the Wentworth. But a small contingent, but three guys who scream Wentworth. Adam Scott, Min Woo Lee, Jason Scrivener. The way they play the game, the way they carry themselves, they're very Wentworth kind of guys. So a good sort of chance. And Min Woo definitely the standout. He finished 7th in Ireland last week and was within one shot of the lead on Sunday and kind of faded a little bit. But
he's about due to do something again, isn't he, Min Woo? He kind of has these surges and then he's quiet for a bit, and he's been quiet for a bit. So.
And this is his sort of time of the year and this sort
big
of event.
Big crowds.
Exactly. The way he's been going this year, he will show up really.
The hooligan
inspired by Minjee.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
he and Minjee like to say there's not this competitiveness and there's a little bit of that, but they kind of push each other along. I think it'll be a big week for him. And Adam seems to absolutely love this place, despite it probably not loving him back over the journey.
No, I was going to say his record is surprisingly poor, I would have thought, for his game and this golf course.
But it seems to fit. And like the relationship with Ernie, and Adam used to live in the nearby area at one stage in his younger career.
He hasn't lived, Adam Scott? Not many. Middle East, Switzerland, America, here.
Yeah.
He's a true man of the world.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. Bon vivant.
Very much.
And then Scrivener has been sort of middle of the pack making cuts the last couple of weeks, so not outside Jason's sort of realm, but have to have a very good week. Before we do go to tips, though, Adrian Logue, new playing from the tips spin with Sponsor Watch.
Oh, nice.
As requested by Rod. So this week, of course, is the BMW PGA Championship. BMW, known as makers of luxury cars, but actually started as the maker of aircraft engines.
That's exactly right.
Not aeroplanes, airplane engines.
Which is the logo is a spinning propeller or something?
No, it was pre-World War I, I think.
Yeah.
The logo is a bit of it's an evolving story, but does anybody know what BMW stands for?
Oh, something Motorworks?
Bayerische Motorenwerke Aktiengesellschaft.
Of course.
That was my voice, of course. I'm fluent in German. That is the name of the company, which is something that translate into Bavarian Motorworks.
Oh, okay.
The reason for the blue and white in the logo, they are the colours of Bavaria.
Oh, there you go.
Oh.
And the circle is, I think it's RAP Industries, and he was one of the founders of another company that became BMW. He had a ring-type logo, and then there was a Bavarian crest in the logo, but then they had to stop using that because of national something. So there you go.
You're right in Logue's wheelhouse here. Can I also say that in Italy, when I visited my family in Italy when I was 16, it's not BMW, it's BMW, because in the Italian alphabet there is no W.
Well,
that's true of several European
in the German
languages.
version, there it is kind of BMW.
Yeah.
And actually, what I just read out in German that I won't read out again.
In that strange
it's actually
voice.
broken down into 3 words, which is grammatically incorrect in German. So the second 2 words should be together, but that doesn't work for the BMW part.
I've always thought W is more of a double V than a W anyway.
Yeah, I remember working that out as an older man than I should have, and fascinated.
I was today years old when I realised that W was actually 2 V.
So while I embarrass myself publicly, let's get some tips. Logue, let's go to you first.
I'm going with my heart on this one and picking Tommy Fleetwood.
Nice. That's not even really hard. He's been playing really good
Absolutely,
golf.
You're not exactly out on a limb there. Tommy Fleetwood might win a tournament.
Is a data-driven beast. Right.
I'm going to go with the defending champion, Lowry, who I thought was really impressive last week at the Irish Open. Suddenly lifted after getting the pick from Luke Donald, and has something to prove because of that now, that he's earned his place in that sense. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he does. He's got a really good record.
Course fit. Yeah.
Plays this course well. He's had a couple of top 5s and a couple of seconds and a win last year.
And third last week. And
exactly.
I was looking at Tommy Fleetwood initially as my pick, and then I was going to pick Shane Lowry.
Oh,
so
good.
Wow.
Good on you guys. So I'll offer up some difference.
Yep.
Min Willie.
Wouldn't be at all surprised.
Yeah, why not?
That's nice little selection.
Yeah,
we've got. Congratulations!
It's a
congratulations all
good
round.
field.
It is a really good field.
John
that's
Rahm
why there's so many names I had to read.
Yeah, well, that's right. And that's why you and Luke work so hard on that.
Yeah, that's right.
John Rahm is just kind of skates in kind of unnoticed because he hasn't played much golf. So. On to the next, and after a monster off-season of 17 days, the PGA Tour is back in action for its season-opening Fortinet Championship in Napa, California, which actually also significantly marks Aaron Baddeley's 500th career start on the PGA Tour.
Wow.
Okay.
Bonus points if you can name the kids. Anybody?
Nope.
He might even struggle. How many of them are there? About 15?
Six, I think. At
6
last count.
children, wow.
I
wonder who keeps playing. You can't afford that many kids if you're not a professional golfer.
Well, that's right.
It's that
the
simple.
kids are starting to get into golf, so he's going out and practicing and playing more.
Well, they're from almost toddlers up to teenagers.
Yeah, that's right. But quickly on Sponsor Watch,
good.
given we're running hot, Fortinet, who are becoming a bigger sponsor in golf, sponsor the Australian PGA Championship, obviously this tournament, and a couple other things involved as well. That's Fortinet, not Fortinet, as some might say, is a cybersecurity company headquartered in California, founded by the brothers Ken and Michael G in 2000.
Okay.
Thank you, Ken and Michael.
The logo's kind of like 4 squares.
It's kind of a circular kind of square, but it's 4 little red things that form this square.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good people. They're spending money on golf. We like that.
Talk about a growth industry, cybersecurity. I had a woman who recorded a podcast in here with a guest who was an expert in cybersecurity, and by the time they'd finished, I wanted to throw out my phone, my computers, and go and live off the grid somewhere. It's terrifying what what goes on in the world and we are all very vulnerable. Anyway, let's move back.
Let's go on to the golf, and specifically the course, which, Rod, you are going to take us on a deep dive of.
Yeah, these are always hard, these things, aren't they, to try and find sort of details about these kind of generic PGA Tour courses, which this is kind of. It opened in 1955, got Robert Trent Jones in 1966, so it lasted 11 years before it got done. It has played host to lots of PGA Tour events and Champions Tour events over the years, so it's no stranger to professional golf. It's in the Napa Valley there in California, which is wine country, real tourist destination. 36 holes on the complex, Silverado
Resort
and Spa. That's exactly right. The South Course. The tournament's played on the North Course. So Johnny Miller's always been very much part of this course's history. I think he spent part of his honeymoon there. Then they bought a house at the golf course. 2014, he banded together with some others and bought the golf course. That ended badly in 2020 with some legal action and whatnot. In between, he redesigned the North Course to get it back to sort of PGA Tour standards. So they came back in 2010 I think they bought it, sorry. Tour came back in 2014 and it's been playing there ever since. It's a real estate development, 300 condos originally, 100 of those lost in bushfires in 2017. We forget that. Just hours after the Safeway tournament finished in 2017, this resort basically burnt to the ground.
Correct.
It's extraordinary. Miller had to flee with his wife. Roger Maltby was on site. He'd been calling the tournament. They decided to stay the Sunday night with his wife. They had to bolt to a local town, to a motel, so which is pretty sort of heartbreaking. So a third of the properties lost in that fire. I imagine most of them have been rebuilt. Course itself, PGA Tour.
Yep.
Narrowish, rough, thicker than you'd like. Trees in play on a lot of it. Some really big breaks on these greens, some really slopey greens. And it produces PGA Tour winners. Max Homar's going for 3 in a row. It's the sort of golf course that you'd expect Max Homar and those guys to sort of do well on. I don't think the course is going to offer anything outstanding. There's a couple of double doglegs. It's not a completely uninteresting golf course, but it's very familiar to most of the other weeks that we see on the PGA Tour. So it'll be in fabulous condition. Scoring will be good because PGA Tour players are really good. Mm-hmm. And this is the sort of thing. These are the questions they're used to being asked, and so they tend to have the answers.
Mercifully, this is the last of the wraparound.
End of the wraparound.
Yeah, week one of the
last
PGA,
wraparound.
Yeah, that's right. And kind of it's what you'll get for the other 51 weeks.
These events in this period will still happen, but they'll be this funny thing that'll happen after the playoffs, and it'll be about trying to keep your card. You'd think
this is where a lot of the live stuff will happen, and those team experiments in the future PGA Tour, and however that whole thing plays out. This is the part of the year where you'll see a lot of that.
I would welcome live at this point.
Yeah,
in the year, it's just
something different, interesting. Yeah. There's a lot to be said for this part of the year being that format. And look, with a bit of luck, it might actually help internationally. Players like they used to coming to Australia, Japan, South Africa, other parts of the world, and taking their games outside the play. That would be a really good outcome if we were to see that. So we'll see. This wraparound year really, really buggered everything up globally. Yeah. It's where the animosity towards the PGA Tour really started.
Yeah, I think so.
And for what? For these?
Exactly. For a bunch of fall series events that, for mostly second-tier players, their hope, I think, was that big-name players would tee up here to get ahead of the game before the new year. And it never happened.
No, you get a sprinkling of guys who have connections to the area or sponsor or whatever. And then that was the attempt of you have to play an event you haven't played in 5 years and all that sort of stuff. But even still, most guys avoided this.
It's still a bit of a mess.
All right, player whisperer. Who do we watch in the field this week?
Well, they've managed to assemble an okay field. There's 6 players from the top 50 of the FedEx Cup standings. It's headlined by Max Homa going for that three-peat. But then Cam Davis is probably the second most notable
plays well
player
here and shows up every year. Like, obviously he has some reason, but
absolutely.
I think I like a lot of players that probably on his tier. This is a great week to start the year. It's a nice place, wine country. It is holiday country. You like going to the Hunter Valley in New South Wales, or you'd go there for the break if you happen to play well.
He can beat up this field as well.
Yeah,
Cam,
this is his sort of golf course very much.
South Thegala is playing as genuinely good player. So I think that's the big three: Homer, Davis, Thegala. There's also Andrew Putnam, Brendan Todd, Eric Cole. Justin Thomas is playing as he should in order to get some form under his belt to justify his Ryder Cup pick. Yep. And he'll be under close scrutiny from team leadership as Zach Johnson and vice-captain Stuart Sink are playing. Yep. Some other notables, and this is yeah, this is flattering. But Mackenzie Hughes, Matt Kuchar's playing, Akshay Bhatia, Kev Kisner, Joel Damon's playing. So fans of Joel Damon from the Netflix series might get excited. They could actually see him on TV for 5 minutes this week.
Depending how he plays.
I think it's just really impressive, Cam Davis' standing, that he, after Homer, is probably the most prominent player this week. But other Australians in the field include Aaron Baddeley, as we said, on his 500th tournament, Greg Chalmers, Harrison Endicott, Lucas Herbert. I'm pretty sure these aren't reserves, by the way.
No, you've got
these are in the field.
Jeff Ogilvy, Cam Percy. Mark Hansby is on the alternate list.
He is.
Yeah.
And probably outside the chances to get in.
That's right.
You'd probably look to the younger of that Australian crew. Harrison Endicott made a pretty memorable debut here on the PGA Tour last year. Davis is, I'd say he'd be in the favourites sort of category for this week.
Yeah.
And Herbert's been working very, very hard on his game the last couple of weeks at home in Florida.
Yeah.
Very, very
quiet,
hard.
hasn't he, Lucas, this year?
Had a funny year.
Yeah.
Had showed some signs, but really didn't kick on like you'd expect.
It's a tough game. It's really difficult
from time to time.
to play at that level consistently.
Bob up.
Yeah, he can bob
absolutely.
up. Bucky's head.
That was last week. Can we move on?
But then, what about the veteran core there of Baddeley 500 starts, Chalmers continuing to take over Twitter as one of the best
one
follows.
of the best follows on.
Cameron Percy racking up starts on the PGA
Ogilvy's
Tour
just playing solidly and making some cuts, and Cam Percy's doing some numbers. So
He's evergreen, isn't he?
Good crew there. Let's get some tips. Rod, you may as well go first.
I'm actually going to go with Justin Thomas because he needs to do a Lowry, having got the pick. He's actually played well here in the past. Hasn't played here for a few years since he became a big shot star. Hasn't turned up, as most wouldn't, but it'll be somewhat familiar to him, and he kind of needs it. And I'm not Thomas's greatest fan. He's done a bunch of stuff over time that I haven't particularly liked. Some of the stuff at the Ryder Cup with the spiking of beers and that sort of carry on, which is a bit unpalatable.
We just clear up that he drunk them and then spiked them like a football. He didn't spike someone's beer.
No, that's right. But he is a level of player that will stand out in this field. I'd be surprised if he didn't lift this week.
Bit of an arse, given the US Ryder Cup team went over to Marco Simone and played some golf, and he's going back all the way to California. It's quite a journey, but
it is. But look, he's one of those guys who all of that will motivate him in the right way.
Well, he also hasn't done it in 25D in Delta. He's done it
exactly
in a solo. Logue?
I'm going with my heart again and picking Cam Davis.
This heart of yours is a really sensible sort of fact-based thinking thing.
It's rare the heart intersects with the mind.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm going to go with Sahith Theegala. California kid, never missed a cut here, T6 last year, has to win a tournament eventually.
Yeah.
Just has to.
Agreed.
He is seriously
player.
good.
Exciting.
Yeah, very much so. A nice player. Funnily enough, this could be shaping up as actually a very interesting tournament. You might not expect it to be. It's
it has been in the past. A couple of, like Stuart Sink won a couple of years ago, and they've had veterans. They've had the best player like Homer win. They've had a few. I want to say one of those kind of. It wasn't Brendan Todd, or Brendan Todd might have won here, but that sort of character who's
Rocco
been around.
Mediate
really selling it
early on at thefries.com. Yeah, we're selling it pretty hard. But
we're selling it hard, but those are good golf stories. A guy
you've got to be a serious golf fan. It's not going to attract
course.
the casual golf fan, but there's some interesting stories.
Is that one Stuart Sink won with his son on the bag?
It is indeed.
So. Okay.
Yeah. So,
and a horrendous short putt routine?
I think it was kind of struggling at that point. Yeah. You can keep up to date with all these tournaments and more at golfaustralia.com.au throughout the week and every week, while you should also head out and pick up a copy of the October issue of Golf Australia magazine that goes on sale on Thursday with Ryder Cup star, or soon to be, Victor Hovland on the cover. His power swing move that every golfer can copy is revealed inside, as is the second part of the Great Golf Weekend Guide. That is all we have time for on Playing from the Tips, episode 31. Rod, I look forward to your reign of terror over the golf world.
It would be a huge mistake to put me in charge, but let's campaign for it anyway.
Very on-brand performance from you, Logue, as well.
Thank you.
Hopefully your winning brand can finally return as well, by the way. We will be back next week, and thank you for listening.